Hi everyone, this is Vivian. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to cultivate your creativity. I know as a designer and artist, I like people to think that I am a creative person, but honestly, I'm always afraid that I'll run out of idea. I know sometimes we think some people are just naturally born creative and some are not so much, but the truth is creativity is a lot more like a muscle memory, that the more you practice, the more you can put out better work. Especially now that I met inspiring people, I talked to designers that I looked up to, there is so much hard work behind their success. Yes, they are creative naturally, but it's nothing compared to the amount of hard work they put into practicing and cultivating that creativity. So last month, I guest host a lettering challenge, and the idea is to invite people to practice Crayola calligraphy for 20 minutes a day, every day. And the theme I came up for this challenge is to letter a city name every day from A to Z for the whole month. I thought this would be a good way for me to practice creativity. So today I'm going to share just my process and my journey on doing this. Now first, I know I am very much an ADD when it comes to creativity. If there's not really any rules or guideline, I kind of just seize. I have brain freeze. I don't know what to do because I have so much I want to do, but at the same time I don't know how to do it. So I know for me I need to set constraint, so that way I know I have a boundary to play with. So I know I'm going to definitely just use mainly Crayola markers and maybe some other tool, but mainly it will be just Crayola markers. And then second is other than just writing the letter, I want to draw something or have some graphic element that related to the theme or to the city. And the third is I gave myself permission to suck, because I know there's no way at the end of this challenge I'm going to have 31 masterpieces. Probably not even any. So I gave myself permission to just be, So how I go about it is every day I will read the history of the city, and then I will look up the traditional art and architecture and photography and landscape, so I get a visual idea. That's how I get my inspiration. And I also will tell myself, okay, this is not going to be a 5-hour project, so do it efficiently but not rushing it. So in a minute, I'm going to show you the cities, and you're going to see that most of it are pretty mediocre. But that's exactly my point, that it's not every day you make masterpiece, and that's okay. So on day one, we did Antwerp, a city in Belgium, and I just quickly doodled the facades in the town square, and that was it. I really didn't spend much time. I just Googled the photo, and then I just wrote down the word. And day two is Budapest in Hungary. So I did their like a traditional embroidery pattern, and it turned out okay, but it's definitely not complete. But like I said, this is like a practice. Day three, we did Cairo. So I actually did spend a lot of time research. I want to do something cool because it's Egypt. It's like a mysterious place. And I looking into all these motifs and antique. But then it was really difficult to draw. And even this, I don't think it turned out quite right. Oh well, but that's just part of the practice. In day four, we did Dublin. So I really explored the Celtic art and this knotted drop cap. So I really like how this part turned out, although the coloring definitely needs some work. And also I'm trying different papers and different techniques. So it turns out this color printer paper is not that good for calligraphy. And then move on to E is for Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. It's a city in Tristan da Cunha, and it's a volcanic island. So I did a volcano drawing, which it's not quite there. And yeah, I didn't really like the color either. I was not really having a creative day. So move on. And then for F, it's a city named Flying Fish Cove. It's a city in this island called Christmas Island. It's like another very mysterious place. And I drew this boat. It's supposed to be the explorer ship that discovered this island. And it's my first time drawing the boat, so, it still needs some work. G is for Gothenburg. So pretty much for every city, I look into the history, the culture, the architecture, the landmarks, and then also their traditional art. So I picked their traditional folk art pattern. And H is for Havana. When I look into some of the photo on the internet, there's all these very colorful facade with like pink and baby blue. So I wanted to portray that feeling. So that's why I did a big letter H with all these color. And then I'm also trying different technique. I'm trying to blend using Crayola marker, but do like watercolor blending. So I used the watercolor paper, but then it turns out that the blending doesn't really work with the markers, or I haven't figured out the technique. So it wasn't that smooth of a blending. And I is for Istanbul. I really like the Middle Eastern tile and patterns. I did some research, and then actually most of them are really complicated. I am not very good at drawing patterns, so just drawing this took me a while, and it still doesn't quite look the way I want it to. So I tried a different paper to do Crayola coloring. This is with Bristol paper, and you still see a lot of these marks. Well, I guess that's just the nature of the Crayola marker. You will never get it even coloring. And then for J is Jakarta. So I have like almost dried out gelled Crayola markers. So this is like the last round of the markers. And I wasn't sure what I was doing, to be honest. I know that their traditional folk art has a lot of like stipplings or stitches and like very intricate drawings. So I just doing some stippling. K is for Kuala Lumpur. For Kuala Lumpur, I also was trying, I don't know why I keep wanting to blend Crayola marker. It just doesn't blend like watercolor marker. I don't know why. I couldn't get it right, but I still try. So I drew their national flower and then wrote like a scriptive letter on it. And I was going to do a shadow, but then I didn't really quite like it, so I stopped. I removed it later in Photoshop. So as you can see up till now, I didn't really like any of the work, except maybe for G, I like how it turned out. But that's just to tell you how long it really takes to do something nice, because I was only spending 20 minutes. No, actually I spent probably a good 40 minutes on each of those. And yeah, 40 minutes is not enough for me to make anything good. So for London, I was looking into history, but London has just too much history to it, so it's hard to pick one thing. What I really liked about London is their city view at night, especially the London Eye. It's all like lit up at night. So I wanted to draw that, and I figured this is an easy enough thing. It's just a circle, looks like a bicycle wheel, so it shouldn't take too long to draw. So I quickly doodled that and then wrote down the words. So this one actually really didn't take long. Maybe half hour, research, get idea to nail down, to decide on which landmark to draw, and then to sketch it out, to color it. So even this takes half hour to do. And then the next day is for Moscow. So Moscow, I know there's also a lot of fantastic patterns and art and color. So I sketched out the buildings, and I don't know, it's kind of cute, I think. And then N is for New York. So there's a lot of things I can do about New York. Most people have an idea for what New York's like, so that's actually a little tricky, because should I draw every landmark, the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Buildings and everything? But then I still want to keep this project short. So I just did quickly a New York and a pattern, kind of just represent the varieties, thing you can do in New York. And then an iconic, cab driver with my cat on it. So it's a cat driver. O is for Osaka in Japan. The research took a while because I know I'm familiar with Japanese culture and, their arts. So I was going for something. At first I had some ideas about drawing the Great Wave or some geisha drawing, but then I have to remind myself this is supposed to be a short project. Don't make this a week-long project. So I end up just writing out the name Osaka and then in the red dot, because that's pretty much their flag. It's a white background with the red dot. And then I make these, in my opinion, very Japanese pattern in white, just to give it a texture. And I like how it turned out, except it's not really centered, but oh well. And P is for Prague. So Prague is also tricky because there's so much history to it, so I couldn't really decide which way to go. And then I remember when I was in Prague a couple of years ago, I went to visit the Mucha Museum. So I wanted to do some art in his style. So I, saw a painting, one of his famous painting, and tried to mimic. But of course, this is very far from what the original looks like. And then I also tried to do this a vellum paper, which didn't quite turn out because as I was trying to add some water to give her clothes a texture, this paper warped, of course. What was I thinking? And then Q is for Quebec. So this one surprisingly turned out really good, I think. I had a difficult time finding what I want to do with Quebec because Canada is such a big country. For me, it was hard to come up with something very unique at first. As I was doing research in city Quebec, I found out that their whole region is known for maple syrup. So that just gave me an idea to draw maple leaves because I didn't want to draw every leaf and then make like a very detailed drawing. So I actually drew a leaf on a tin cover, and then so I did like a stamp experiment. I was really happy with how it turns out. So I actually went out and made a whole video about how to create leaf stamps, which you can check here. I'll create a link here. And for Rome, it's actually a difficult project for me too because it's one of my favorite cities, and Rome is so well known for a lot of things: architecture, the histories, the food, the people. So my mind was everywhere. I wanted to draw the Colosseum, the Roman Empire, or the food, the tiramisu, the pasta, the pizza. I didn't know exactly what to do. So what I did is I actually went on watched some travel videos about Rome. When I saw the video showing Pantheon, it reminded myself visiting Pantheon the first time. So I decided to do the ceiling of the Pantheon and then using the center opening as part of the name. Singapore turns out to be the one I like the most. So I was researching on Singapore. The history was really interesting. I wanted to do something historical, but it's really hard to do a clip art or embellishment on a historical fact. And when I look into their traditional or folk art, there really isn't one because Singapore has diverse ethnicity. So I look into the city architecture, and of course they have great, amazing modern architecture. But as I was doing research on Pinterest, I saw this tile pattern that's kind of like in the Singaporean Chinese style. So that pattern just really attracted me, and I wanted to recreate that pattern. So the first time I just going to recreate the pattern by drawing it and then coloring it, and it turns out really ugly. So I was thinking, I can do a stamp. I went out and bought a pack of craft foam from dollar store, and then I made my own stamps. And they are not perfect, because I was like hand carving it, and it was not very well cut. It was really hard to get them to match, the different color to match. But then somehow I think, that's kind of makes it nice that it's not really matching, but kind of matching. And T is for Taipei, and I am from Taipei, so I wanted to do something different. There's a lot of beautiful architectures and scenery that I can draw about Taipei, but I wanted to do something less cliche, so I actually tried to do somewhat of like a street signs. If you've ever been to Taipei, or if you just search Taiwan, Taipei, and do a street view on Google Map, you'll see the store signs. It's crazy on every building. It's like if you are on the shopping street, the sign just covers the whole building. You do not see the facade. It's all just signs. So that's what I was trying to do, to just have a kind of like a building front and then with like signs everywhere. Like ridiculous. Ulaanbaatar is a city in Mongolia. So I was trying to do some Mongolian art. It was very intricate, very complicated. So I wanted to do something simpler. And then I saw this picture of their yurt. And I was really taken away from the picture of the night sky. If you're using watercolor, doing a night sky might be easy, or some sort of paint. But using Crayola marker is just really tricky because, like I have experienced, Crayola marker is just hard to blend. But I want to be able to paint directly on the paper, so I just went really crazy. I was just like loaded up with Crayola markers, and that's how it turns out. It almost have like a crayon effect. V is for Vienna. So when I looked up the history in Vienna or Austria, it's very rich, obviously, in especially with all the famous castles or palaces and the Habsburg dynasty and all that. So I wanted to do something that reflects that period of time. So I chose a decorative style of embellishment in Baroque style. W is for Warsaw. So Warsaw, I did this actually very quick. I just quickly look over their town squares, looking for ideas from their architecture, and I saw a picture of very cute row of buildings, kind of like this. But also bear in mind, I only have Crayola marker color to use with, so the buildings are in not exactly these colors. And I also use craft foam to make these block prints. X is for Sai. It's a city in Mozambique, and I also did not spend much time, you can probably tell. But when I see the name, Sai, I just feel like right away I think it would be nice to make a pattern of it. And I think it's just a cool way to use calligraphy as pattern. Y is for Yamoussoukro, is the capital of Ivory Coast. So this one is a very interesting design journey. So I started researching about the country, Ivory Coast, and actually, compared to other countries, Ivory Coast, the page of that country is quite short on Wikipedia. And then when I look up the city Yamoussoukro, it's even shorter. There's not much you can find. I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information about the city. So I looking into Ivory Coast art or traditional art, folk art patterns, and I found a lot of African statues or sculptures. And then so I look into the fashions or their prints, their patterns, and there's a lot of beautiful patterns. But the thing is, a lot of time I type in Ivory Coast pattern, or if I would type in one of their tribal name pattern, it would show up just African pattern. But I couldn't find a pattern that's specifically said it's unique to Ivory Coast. So I don't want to just copy any pattern I saw on Pinterest, because that might be a Ghana pattern, it might be a Nigerian pattern. So I wanted to make my own. And first, I was just going to create my own pattern using simple geometry shape. So I create some triangle, square, and stripes stamps, and I want to incorporate the name together. But then I realized, I can actually use the stamp to create a typography. First, I thought I would need to have 5 shapes to make these words, and then I went down to 4, and then I realized, I can just do with 3. So all of these words is made up with a triangle, a rectangle, and a half circle. And I even have 2 ways of making M. So this is another happy accident. So for Z is Zagreb in Croatia, and then I just saw this coat of arms, or what is this, there's this thing on their flag, and I thought that's really cute, so I just went with that. So this one I actually probably spent under 20 minutes. So as you can see, not every piece is good. I can probably pick out maybe 2 or 3 that I actually do like. And then I know these are just quick projects, so some of them I did pick out later to further explore, such as for Quebec, when I did the maple leaf stamping. I was having so much fun, so I actually did a whole bunch of other stamping that you can see in this video. And for Vienna, I really like how the V turned out, so I did a embossing on my sketchbook cover. So as you can see, in this month, my journey pretty much go from the first week is like, I have no idea what to do. And then the second week is like, okay, I kind of know, what I can do every day. And then the third week is like, I'm so bored, can I use something else? And then later on towards the end, it's like, wow, this is actually fun. Starting something is hard. Keep it going is even harder. And I just wanted to share this project with you guys, and let me know, how do you cultivate your creativity? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye. Creativity is like a muscle. Yeah. Not that much. Do some workout. Ow.